Today we're reacting to
Fortnite Chapter 4 has ushered in a new era of the storyline, introducing two mysterious groups who are desperate to control the island. They feel like this all happened overnight, but Fortnite removed half the live event, which answered a ridiculous amount of questions. This entire chapter ties back to the Seven, the Imagined Order, and the longest-running mystery in the game. So to understand everything, we have to return to the Fracture event. After the Seven were consumed by Chrome, it continued to spread across the island, leaving nothing behind. In the final moments of the last reality's plan, the Herald weakened the Zero Point and finished what she set out to do. As the Chrome slowly consumed her, the island exploded into thousands of pieces, and in the blink of an eye, everything we knew was gone. The Zero Point was now exposed as the last reality closed in, but this wasn't the end. It exploded into thousands of pieces, and in the blink of an eye, everything we knew was gone. The Zero Point was now exposed as the last reality closed in, but this wasn't the end. It fought back and destroyed the mothership, escaping to an unknown reality, and in the aftermath, we're left floating through space with some pieces of the island surviving. This kickstarts Paradigm and Amy's plan, Zero Fusion, a way to reforge the island and create a new home for all of us. So the Zero Point begins to pull pieces back together, but it's forced to take fragments from other realities, and this comes at a huge cost. Paradigm explains the risk of fusion, and we're left to believe that she sacrificed herself to make it happen. As she vanishes, her decoded message is all that's left of the Seven, and now our attention is turned to Chapter 4, a brand new island and a fresh start for the storyline. Agent Jones and Amy are the only characters left alongside the most important villain in Fortnite's history, and he has brought an entire kingdom with him. One of the realities that we caught in Zero Fusion is the medieval world from thousands of years ago. It's full of castles, towns, and statues, and in the throne room, controlling it all is the Ageless. This mysterious knight is known as the People's Champion, who prefers the sword to the crown and will fight anyone to protect his kingdom. He sounds like a noble hero, and while that might be true, he is also hiding one of the biggest secrets in all of Fortnite. His kingdom is known as the Oathbound, and he rules it from the Citadel, a huge fortress with a throne room, dining hall, and grand entrance. If you look closely at the symbols on the walls and the flags hanging from the ceiling, the Oathbound are more familiar than we realize. Come to think of it, the Ageless's armor is also extremely familiar. It hints at the true nature of this kingdom and its leader, who is revealed to be Geno, the founder of the Imagined Order and arch nemesis of the Seven. His appearance in Chapter 3 showed an older man who seemed more experienced, but also cruel. The Ageless is none of those things, but there's a reason why. This is a snapshot of Geno from thousands of years ago, who was left behind to rule the Oathbound while he went to conquer Reality Zero. After taking control of the Zero Point, he was able to build the bridge and create his masterpiece, the Imagined Order. But that doesn't mean they were first, as the Oathbound are his original society. Their name actually references the oath that Geno believes in, and the modern IOs still follow it to this day.
You took an oath. You betrayed everything we said.
While the real Geno is still recovering from his quote-unquote death, the Ageless is here to restore balance and expand his kingdom. They are already conquering the island, trying to recruit as many people as possible. Many allies have already jumped on board, like Scrap Knight Jules, who says, "The tech on this new island is intriguing." Apparently, she's willing to work with anyone who can teach her about it, even the Oathbound and their Riff Warden, who we'll talk about later in the video. Raptorian the Brave has also joined the cause, swearing loyalty, but he does admit that it feels a little too perfect. I guess that even in the earliest form of the Imagined Order, perfection was still Geno's #1 goal. But you can't have a villain without a group of heroes, and even though the Seven story has been put on pause, a new one is just beginning. In the Icy Wasteland, mysterious shrines have been brought to the island. They look like Jedi temples, which would make sense because this is the headquarters of a new group called the Reality Warriors. As the name suggests, these are the protectors of reality who are hiding in the snowy mountains at Brutal Bastion. Their architecture is super weird, with floating orbs, circular diagrams, and statues of an unknown woman. In the outskirts of the ice biome, there's a forest, and the Reality Warriors have used it to hide their most valuable possession, the Zero Point. Locked away in a bronze vault, it's surrounded by rocks that give us a massive clue as to the identities of these warriors. If you compare the weird buildings and stone shrines to the modern-day sanctuary, it is way too similar to be a coincidence. The Reality Warriors are the Seven from thousands of years ago. But this has left one huge question on everyone's mind. While the Oathbound built statues of their King Geno, this group worships a woman in robes. She's holding a sword and shield in the exact same position as the Ageless statues, which is probably hinting at them being arch enemies. And so while we try and figure out the identity of this woman, it's clear that she is probably the most important character in Chapter 4. If you remember the end event, we watched as the Seven rescued Agent Jones and flipped the island. But there was one piece of dialogue which never quite made sense until now.
Why does she make me keep saving you?
This was over a year ago, and we never learned who the Foundation was talking about, but it's possible this woman is the key to unlocking the entire storyline. Another important detail about the Reality Warriors is their floating orbs, which are a super weird design choice, but they were added on purpose. If you look at the original concept art for Sanctuary, the Seven had weird pods that were connected to the Zero Point. It's the same tech that the Reality Warriors use, and if that wasn't enough, their temples are filled with small hidden rooms. Inside of them, you can spot artwork of Looper Landing, which is the place where Foundation gave his famous speech at the start of Chapter 3. So now that you know about the two main forces on the island, you need to see what they're actually up to. It's only the first week of the season, and the Oathbound are already hard at work at total domination. They've discovered a place known as Shattered Slabs, where the rocks are mysteriously glowing. Immediately, they turned it into a quarry, mining the rocks and discovering a new material, kinetic ore. It's a huge upgrade for their medieval kingdom, which up until now is mostly built with stone and wood. Thanks to this discovery, the Oathbound are using the ore to create new technology. When the Reality was brought to the island, many towers and castles were still under construction and half finished. You can see materials being wheeled in on carts that look like they're falling apart. But closer to the Citadel, these carts have started to be replaced with hovercrafts, and this is terrifying news. The Oathbound have created new weapons like shockwave hammers and Excalibur rifles, and they're looking stronger every single day. This power might have landed in the wrong hands, and Amy isn't helping. She survived the events of Fracture and has spent this time trying to figure out the Paradigm's instructions. So she begins to research the kinetic ore and realizes it wasn't on her old island, but here it's in the fuel, weapons, items, everything. She finds out that the owner of this quarry is the Ageless and visits his citadel to learn more. After he studies the refined ore, he says to Amy, "Your gift intrigues me, but do you truly know what you've given us?" That's a little ominous, right? And so with the bridge gone, this is the end of an era for the Imagined Order. No bunkers are on the island for the first time in Fortnite's history, and there's no flip side anymore. It's more like a bowl shape now. This is essentially a prequel season without us actually going back in time, and that is terrifying because this could go anywhere. The Oathbound continue to establish control over the island and are quickly setting up the perfect kingdom. They have somehow managed to get the loop up and running again without access to the Zero Point. Now this also happened in Chapter 2 when the Foundation sealed himself in the spire and the loop was completely unaffected. It's a great mystery that we have still yet to figure out, but there's one thing we know, and that is how dangerous the Oathbound is becoming. In the season's news tab, it mentioned bringing order to reality as the Ageless, which is a subtle hint that they'll bring the full force of the Imagined Order back to life again. This plan will be completed when the real Geno makes his way home. He is currently rebuilding himself atom by atom after being split apart by the Zero Point during collision. And he's not the only one reconstructing their body. Amy, without the Seven to guide her, is now becoming pretty self-aware. A few seasons ago, she talked about her ideal body with rocket launcher arms, knife feed, and a grappling hook head. And this week's challenges end with a simple request. She wants us to make it for her. It is here we learn about the biggest mystery in Chapter 4, which is the Oathbound quest mentioning the Rift Warden, and we're left wondering who this is. It's an interesting title, as the Citadel is codenamed Light Castle, and rifts are notoriously known as light energy compared to the cube's dark. But the writers of Fortnite has given us some more information about the Rift Warden. We'll have voice lines in the next few weeks, and currently their name is redacted. They also reveal that the Rift Warden will have a father, so they must play a very important role in this season. With the Reality Warriors having control of the Zero Point and the Oathbound currently raising an army, the Chapter 4 island is turning into a medieval battleground. The next few months will be pivotal in the war for the Zero Point, with the Oathbound preparing to use their new technology to take it by force. And so as we move away from the Seven and the IO that we followed for so many years, maybe, just maybe, this will end with all of us going back to the future. This has been Tommy, keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.
Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, you should go like, comment, see you next one. Goodbye.